Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. A few weeks back, we talked about the dramatic shift away from wallets, with nearly 40% of people no longer carrying one. Instead, they're using mobile phones and smartwatches as their main means of making payments. After we spoke about that, we were contacted by a company called Slyp, S-L-Y-P, and they made a very good point. We're all focusing on digital solutions over physical cards and cash, but what about the other end of the transaction, with old-fashioned receipts still being printed in almost every store? Paul Weingarth is the co-founder and CEO of Slyp. Paul, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Hi, Sean. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, tell me, Slyp is behind the Slyp Smart Receipt. Tell me how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Slyp is a unique proposition that we're building out in partnership with Australia's four major banks. And we're really focused on digitising that last mile of the transaction. So, like you said in the intro there's been a significant and a rapid shift away from people carrying cash and using not only their cards, but their phones to make payments. And often customers are leaving the home to go shopping without their wallet on them at all, their physical wallet, and using their mobile phone. And so we looked at this as an opportunity to really, I suppose, digitise that last mile of the payment experience. And that's sort of where the digital receipt sits. And that's our sort of core proposition, which is allowing customers, once they've activated Slyp in their existing banking app, once they walk into a store and they want to make a payment, whether it be with their traditional tap of their plastic credit or debit card, or whether they want to use their watch or their mobile phone to make a payment with Apple Pay or Google Pay, they simply pay as they normally do, and within seconds they'll receive a fully itemised digital receipt directly inside their existing banking app. So it's a really seamless customer experience. Obviously eliminates that pain point of, okay, I don't have my wallet on me, or I need to stuff my paper receipt in the back of my jeans or in my purse or in my if you have your wallet in your wallet, because as we know, receipts often get lost. They're that thing you don't need until you do when something goes wrong. And they can often fade as well. As we know, most paper receipts are printed on thermal paper, which often fades when exposed to sunlight and is coated with a whole bunch of different toxins around BPA and what have you. So it's really about just allowing customers to pay as they normally do, and they get that surprise and delight moment when their fully itemised digital receipt lands directly inside their banking app.
Okay, so are all the four major banks involved?
Yeah, so from a rollout perspective, we're currently live with NAB and their 2 odd million app users that are able to access Slyp Smart Receipts, and the other banks we're working with at the moment. But all four banks are investors and shareholders of the company, which puts us in a very unique position. We're the first fintech ever, independent fintech, to have the backing of all four major Australian banks. So definitely share our vision in building a new digital receipt standard for the country, for Australia, and really distributing the solution to as many consumers and merchants as possible in the network, and with an aim to improve that customer experience, but also do our bit for the environment as well, in terms of eliminating the mindless waste around the paper receipt, which, as I mentioned, 90% of the time is unrecyclable, given the toxins in thermal paper. So we're very, very excited about the innovation, and having the backing and the blessing from the four majors is definitely critical.
Now, I think I saw a stat on your website which said that Australia prints 20,000 kilometres of receipts per day. Is that right?
That is right. Yeah, it's pretty scary. And as I mentioned, 90% of them being non-recyclable. So it's one of those, unless you live and breathe it like I do and my team does every single day, it's sort of one of those pieces of the payment process that you sort of take as given, and until you get into the weeds of it, realise how big the problem actually is, not only from a customer experience perspective, but also from an environmental lens as well. And so how do we just not only get rid of this mindless waste, but also reinvent that whole payment experience? And not only is it great for customers, but it's also a great opportunity for merchants to reconnect with their consumers after they've left the store. So it opens a new digital channel for them to engage customers.
I was going to ask about that. So presumably there's a data play in this as well, and potentially a loyalty play.
Yeah, so I think ethos around data is always around data for delight, and again, putting the customer at the center of the universe, and really as our North Star. How do we really ensure that, one, first and foremost, that customers have full control over their data. They're not sharing any unnecessary data like personal information unless they want us to. And there has to be benefit when that exchange takes place, right? So to your point, you touched on briefly there around loyalty, for example, which is obviously where customers are, you provided a reward or a bonus for sharing their loyalty card or their loyalty identifier at checkout. And so, yeah, we see that also as a pretty big opportunity for us where, as you know, when you go to purchase something at one of your favorite retail stores and they ask you for your loyalty membership card, that's another point of friction outside of just the receipt itself that we want to embed as part of this proposition as well. So we've just developed a solution called Smart Loyalty, which will also allow customers to link not only their receipts automatically to their payment card, to their bank card, but also their loyalty numbers or loyalty membership cards to their payment card as well. So tap and walk and you get your receipt and your loyalty points without that choke point or that friction point at the moment of truth when you're trying to buy something and want to move on and get out of there as quickly as possible.
Stay with me, Paul. We'll be back in a minute. My guest today is Paul Weingarth, co-founder and chief executive officer of Slip. What about the retailers? What's the take-up rate been like with Australian retailers?
Yeah, look, it's been, really, really encouraging, and we've made some really good progress across the board, really, on the retailer side of the network. So, we really set out to prove out that, this was something that not only consumers wanted, but merchants wanted as well. And when we looked at, different industries and verticals that might resonate with this proposition, obviously in fashion was one key area, in department stores, all the way through to hospitality for expenses for consumers and what have you, and into even pharmacy. So we've really covered every base there, and some of the market leaders in each of those categories. So in fashion, for example, we have the likes of Country Road, and department store we have Kmart, which is obviously part of the Wesfarmers Group as one of our merchants. In pharmacy, Chemist Warehouse, which is Australia's leading pharmacy chain. So, and in hospitality, we have a range of different groups, including the Rockpool Group, for example, who are on the platform as well. So, we're still relatively early days, but it's, just over 2,000 retail locations now and growing rapidly. And, obviously, as we continue to scale out the consumer side, that will also drive the benefit for merchants and bring more merchants onto the platform as well and attract them into the network.
Now, given that you're CEO of Slip, I'm sure you're going to, this is a bit of a Dorothy Dixer, but where do you think we can get to in this?
Well, look, I think, starting with the humble receipt and, our vision is to completely reimagine the end of a transaction to turn into the start of a relationship between the merchant and the customer, and do that in a way that is not intrusive to the customer, but is more about surprise and delight. And so if you think about the receipt itself, yes, it acts as a proof of purchase. And I alluded to earlier, when it's one of those things you don't really want to have to need at some point, but hopefully you don't need it. But often in some cases you do, where you need to return something or need to make an expense claim, a tax claim, or what have you. So bring that into a digital format is really just base camp for where we want to take this. And I mentioned also the layering in and the ability to link in your loyalty cards. As we know, there's so many different loyalty programs out there, so being able to link that into the payment card, so it removes that friction point. But really, how do you then, now you've got this sort of closed loop network, and you've got the ability to then understand customers more and provide them more intuitive and interactive features. One of the things that we're really leaning into at the moment is leveraging the receipt to allow customers to resell pre-loved items. The secondary market or circular economy is becoming a really big topic at the moment. And, getting rid of paper receipts is one thing, but, allowing the digital receipt to enable the circular economy would be a really big step change and game changer for that circular economy. So, really allowing customers to relist pre-loved items in the future is something that's on our roadmap that is extremely exciting. And, building in different features and offers around understanding, customer preference and being able to provide them with offers and promotions that are really targeted and are very curated for what their desires are, rather than the spray and pray. So there's a range of different opportunities that we're working on currently. Some are in market, but really it all starts with the humble receipt, bring that into the smart world and layering the value on top of that.
Yesterday, I went to the doctor to get a COVID shot and I asked for a script for something, and the doctor gave me an e-script, which she literally sent it to my phone, which I didn't even realize they existed. What you're talking about, it's kind of the same genre in a sense with your receipt and loyalty card and potentially circular economy. It's kind of coming upon us very, very quickly, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about, delivering step change value and creating an experience for customers that is surprise and delight. I've mentioned that a couple of times already, but it's really important. There's no point building solutions that are looking for problems. It's really about focusing on how do you make customers' lives easier by either saving them time or money or just making their lives more convenient. And obviously that's a pretty significant primary piece of the puzzle. But then how do you build commercial value around that for merchants and for other key participants in our ecosystem that helps them become more efficient, saving them costs, but also unlocking new revenue streams for them. Another great use case could be, you've just purchased an item from a electronics store and you want to buy an extended warranty inside the receipt. And that's a really good example where it's highly contextual. It's leveraging the data on the transaction, but it's also delivering that value and surprise and delight for the consumer and for the merchant. So yeah, it's, as I say, the North Star, the customer is where you start, and then trying to deliver value across the network is critical too.
Paul, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Pleasure, Sean. Thanks for having me.
That was Paul Weingarth, co-founder and CEO of Slyp. That's SLYP. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.